And I see David Pretty on my screen first, so I'll start there.
Great. So restorative justice. So I've been part of the that restorative justice movement in Arlington already. I've been part of the V circles to give an idea of how to go about it. So I've been part of that engagement over the summer, and it's something that we have to turn to. The voters showed us last year in the Commonwealth's attorney election that they want to go to a different path of justice reform, and restorative justice is that path. So I am in favor of it. I support it. I think we need to see how this goes in the countywide, and then spread that to the schools as well, such as the restorative justice practices that they use in Fairfax County. I intend on furthering this and keeping that going moving forward.
Okay, I'll go to the next candidate, Christina Diaz-Torres.
Great. So big fan of restorative justice for a lot of the reasons that Dave just highlighted. We see some significant discipline disparities, particularly with our Black students and our Latino students. They are anywhere between twice or 3 times as likely to encounter discipline issues, serious discipline issues in APS right now. And we've seen that year over year over year. And restorative justice is an excellent tool in our toolbox to address those discipline disparities. It is not the be all end all. We still need to address mindsets in the way that we treat our students, particularly our students of color, our students with disabilities. But restorative justice is a big tool in helping us get there and giving us a good framework. So I will certainly support continuing funding for joint operations for exploring restorative justice in our schools, and will encourage school discipline to shift in that direction rather.
Okay, turning it over to Simone.
Hi, yes. We have a strategic plan for restorative justice in Arlington that's being worked out right now, but as far as implementation, the Center for Youth and Family Advocacy has a restorative justice practices program for juveniles. It's called PEER, Pursuing Empathy Through Equitable Resolution. I believe they've already entered into an MOU with the county for implementation through the juvenile justice system. And they are also pursuing an MOU with APS, which APS has not yet signed. And I would encourage them to do so, to refer students for disciplinary issues or criminal issues through that peer program as a diversionary program. That would remove the implicit bias that leads to disparities in suspensions and discipline. If you all Google the story about a teenager who didn't do her online schoolwork and was sent to jail, that whole scenario started with the absence of restorative justice, where she stole an iPhone from a student at school and then later returned it, went into the juvenile justice system, and part of her probationary responsibilities was to do her online schoolwork. Being ADHD and depressed, she didn't log on time, and then she was jailed for violating probation. That's a travesty, but a very clear example of what the absence of a restorative justice program in the criminal and in the school system can do.
Thank you. I'll start with Audrey, and then we'll go to Libby.
Well, I certainly support the concept of restorative justice, and I endorse all the things that the other candidates have said on the subject. However, I was actually a month or so ago watching the Republican National Convention on TV, and they had the father of one of the victims of the Parkland shooting in Florida as a keynote speaker. And this gentleman said that his daughter and numerous other people were killed as a result of a student who was in Parkland's restorative justice program. In other words, he was a juvenile delinquent and he had a history of misconduct. But because he, according to the father, because he was in this program, he was not subject to any serious discipline, and the Parkland shooting was the result. Now, I have not made any attempt to verify this gentleman's remarks. However, I would say that APS should consider very carefully the type of restorative justice program that it implements, and make sure that if students do not respond well to the restorative justice program that they have been recommended for, that other types of disciplinary action be considered.
I'm going to turn to Libby, but let me take my moderator's discretion here to ask a follow-up. So do you support restorative justice? But I'm just confused by your anecdote that you gave. Do you support it, or yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to turn to Libby. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much. Absolutely. You know, restorative justice is the only way that it works to make the world a better place. I hope you can hear me. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm getting different things on my screen. Thank you. Yeah. It's the only approach that works. And I have always really understood that instinctively as a Quaker. It's kind of built into my religion and my faith, if you will. And certainly as a parent working with my own children and now my grandchildren. We've seen it. I've always supported what I now know is essentially is restorative justice in our efforts to use diversionary programs for our youth. But both in when I was on the school board, I was not interested in sending, children to jail or anything like that, but to get them the kind of help that they needed. It also, of course, has to be done appropriately, but you really need to work with people where they are, get them to understand what's going on, what really is going on with them. As Simone, talked about in her remarks, that's absolutely crucial. I was so excited when we brought Leanne Roselle here to work with our community for a year on restorative justice, and really enjoyed attending her first session and was looking forward to doing a lot more. She has done a lot of work, but it's been tougher, obviously, with the pandemic. So moving forward, this needs to get feet. Restorative justice totally needs to be part of our community discussion that we're having on race and equity. We're going to be starting those discussions officially next month. It's a very important concept. We need to be applying it all the time. So, for example, in transportation, Arlington View has been cut off by roads. First, 395 went through, Columbia Pike went through, and I found myself talking to our transportation folks about, we've got to do something. What can we do? And they said, well, it's just there's all these big roads. We can't do anything because it's too expensive. And what I said was, do you know how it got that way? It got that way because those were communities of color. Those were Black Americans, and we just cut them off. And now we're saying we can't fix it. No, we got to fix it. So there are a lot of ways that we can use restorative justice. And I really look forward to the next 4 years, if I'm reelected, trying to implement that more and more. That will make us and lead us to being the kind of community we really want to be. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask this question to everyone, but it is a school-related question, but I think this will probably take the whole county to figure out. We are obviously in a time where students are going to school virtually or some hybrid model in some locations. What is your position on reopening? And if we do have to continue to go virtually, how will we do so, make sure that education is still equitable for all students? I'll start with Simone. And then I'll go to Christina and then David, and then we'll go to the county candidates.
Let me just say that I am the only school board candidate to have put out a formal statement of my position on reopening. That's on my website and also on Facebook. But I believe the time has come to start actively implementing a plan to bring back the most vulnerable students first. We have students with disabilities that really require in-person therapies that can't be done virtually, that are regressing and losing more ground. We have our pre-K, we have a very robust pre-K program. Our pre-K students can't be in front of a computer for hours. Pre-K through 2, really, it's very difficult for them to be in front of a screen for hours. So I believe in a phased implementation, but I would like to see APS put out and communicate better metrics and start to bring our most vulnerable students back, which would be, as I said, the students with the more severe disabilities, our youngest students, our English learners, and those who are economically disadvantaged, who might be left alone at home as their parents are frontline workers.
Thank you. David?
Oh, I'm next. Sorry, I thought it was last. Okay. So if you watch the school board meeting on Thursday night, you'd know that Dr. Duran issued his back to school, so far his phased in approach, which includes students with disabilities, English language learners, and the K through 2 cohort there. So that is already in place. It's already taken care of. It's in the works. So that is, I am on board with.
You're fully endorsing his plan, is what you're saying?
I'm on board with what his plan is. The plan is to monitor the metrics that are going on with COVID rates. It's also to make sure we have things like a six week supply of the proper sanitary items in order to the proper PPP in order to make school work in person. What also is happening is in order to answer your second part of that question about leaving kids behind, what APS has done, and this is what I actually had lobbied for behind the scenes, is to use the extended day staff, since there is no extended day now, use them to help account for every child. So I can give you an example, like if a student is absent or late to a class, and they go through the same protocols they would normally go through school, but they're using the extended day employees to help call those people and figure out, hey, how can we reach this child? And that is a good metrics to find out, who in fact we are missing and who in fact we need to include. So I'm in support of that plan so far.
Christina? And then we'll go Libby and then Audrey.
Great. So back in May, actually, I wrote a piece in Blue Virginia that was outlining my suggested framework for reopening and recovery. And interestingly enough, our APS's plan has mirrored that proposal pretty closely. It started with bringing together a return to school task force over the summer, developing the metrics and the framework and the dashboard. I'm happy to put a link to the dashboard in the chat after I finish speaking. But we're seeing how that plan has been developed over the last several months is now coming into play, and we're starting to see it come to life. To address Katie's comment in the chat, I agree with you. Kindergartners learning on virtual learning is incredibly difficult. But something that we need to acknowledge is that we do not know what the future is going to hold. If you look at the states that have already reopened so far, states like Florida and Georgia and South Carolina, we're seeing rolling closures. So our default needs to be making sure that our virtual learning is incredible and as best as we possibly can make it. Our teachers have been working day in and day out to try to do their best, and they are working like rock stars and doing as much as they possibly can. Our job as the community is to support that effort and to give grace when we can, give positive feedback when we can, and also make sure that we're articulating our needs when we have additional needs that need to be addressed. Going forward, there's no playbook to getting out of this. So we're going to need to depend on having a firm return to school plan, as we have seen put out that followed what I had suggested earlier on in the summer, and then just being careful and cautious and supporting each other through this pandemic.
Okay. And I said Libby first and then Audrey.
Yeah, and could you repeat the question, because it's obviously a little different for
Sure.
county board than school board, and I realize I'm not quite sure exactly what the question was.
Oh, sure. I was asking a question about getting kids back to school. It was a two-part question. Do you have a plan that for getting kids back to school or reopening, like your position on it? And then if we do have to stay virtual, how do we ensure that all the kids are learning in an equitable manner?
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much. So I don't exactly have a plan, because this is the APS. When I was on the school board, I hated it when county board members tried to be school board members and tell us what to do. However, there is a huge role for the county to play with support here. And obviously I talk to my school board colleagues all the time. So on the county side, and we have been working really hard. First, everybody's got to have access to internet, good internet, not just Wi-Fi's that don't, MiFi's that aren't working. So we've been working really hard on that. It's been a struggle. We're getting close. We've set up some blasters on our own telephone poles and light poles working with Dominion Power, I believe, that can blast internet to certain areas where we know people are having trouble connecting, and then they're able to use that to connect. We've obviously set up places at our libraries and other places that, again, blast internet for people to be able to come and use freely. But we want students to be able to use the internet in their homes. We've been working hard to try to get childcare available and support for students to be learning, because a lot of times parents need to be at work. It's so hard for a student. I mean, I'm watching it with my own grandchildren working at home if they don't have a parent or somebody there who is able to help them. That has been very slow. It's been a struggle. No time to go into details here. We are looking to open up 2 of our community centers, hope to have that soon for students to be in there. And then of course you need to have the folks there. The bottom line is, the decision has to be the superintendents and the school boards, but they're working closely with our public health department. We've got to get this virus under control, and that's going to take a while. Trying hard on that, and meanwhile doing as much as we can to support. So we've been providing the school board with resources to pay for the internet that they need. We've been working with the state. We've been working with Comcast. We've been working with everybody we can think of to get internet supplied to children. And we're doing everything we can to get childcare open, bending regulations whenever we can. Some of them we can't bend, but if we can bend them, we do. And we are all totally open to suggestions that people have. This has been an all-out effort for months and months. It's been extremely frustrating, and it worries me to death what's happening to our more vulnerable students and to our smaller children whose parents have to work, and they should not be home alone, and they're likely to be left alone. This is what keeps me up at night. Thank you.
Audrey?
Yes, I would echo the other candidates, but I would also like to frame the issue in a different way. And that is that nationwide, the debate has been either or. Either we attend school virtually or we attend school in person. And there is no general recognition that these 2 learning modes are actually complementary. In other words, if a certain number of students are attending class virtually, that means they're not in the classroom and they're not exposing other students to the virus. On the other hand, kids who need to be in the classroom ought to be there with minimal exposure. So we see that a hybrid model where some kids are learning virtually and other kids with special needs and those who require individual attention are in some type of classroom facility. I think that's the way to go. Based on what Ms. Torres said, I believe that APS is probably going in the right direction, but I would also caution that in principle, there is absolutely nothing wrong with virtual learning as long as the child can either be attended or is mature enough to use the virtual learning facilities to his or her advantage. So other than that, I would caution education officials throughout the state of Virginia not to get caught up into the either or debate about whether and when to return to the classroom.
And so just to follow up, Audrey, you're saying almost a hybrid model, which some people have adopted. What would you do about staff who may or may not want to return?
First of all, I would impose very generous exemptions on any staff person who wishes not to return to the classroom on account of health reasons. Secondly, I would seriously consider allowing some teachers to exempt themselves for other reasons. For example, if they have vulnerable people in their own household. And only then would I consider insisting on any teacher returning against his or her will. I would generally not support forcing teachers back to work.
Thank you.
Those that wish to go back to work, that is another issue. And
Sure.
I would be receptive to that.
Okay, thank you. Next question is just for the county candidates. Since Audrey went last, we'll start with Libby. The Arlington County NAACP has obviously been supporting getting rid of the Arlington logo / seal. What is your personal position on whether or not the seal should be retired? And that's for both candidates.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, personally, I think it's time to go. We haven't looked at it for a long time, and I think it represents. It doesn't really represent Arlington. For one, the seal is the house is it's actually on federal property, so I think it should be retired. The question is how, and we need to work that we need to work that through with the community. And I've said this a number of places. It's not really up to me, Libby Garvey, what I think the logo should be. It's really up to our community. And I think it leads to a really important conversation that we need to have, which we're going to fold into the conversations on race that we're going to be starting with our community. My concern with the whole issue is that it might divert us from the real issue, which is systemic racism. I mean, the fact that that logo is there and most people have no idea what it means or it's just baked in, right? That's the issue with systemic racism. It's baked in. But that's just one of many, many things that are baked in. And there are things that are baked into our systems, systemic racism, that's much more crucial to fixing things than the logo. So I believe it's going to lead to a really good conversation and some understanding if we do this correctly. I personally believe it should change, but I want to work through with our community how to do that. And I do not want to lose our eyes on the prize, if you will, which is dealing with systemic racism. And that's the issues we've mostly been talking about here, right? Education, transportation, housing, etc. Okay, sorry if I went too long.
No. And a brief follow-up, and this is not about you. I'm just skeptical from my time dealing with Fairfax folks, but I'm sure Arlington is not like this. Will you vote, if it comes up, will you vote yes to get rid of the logo?
Yeah, if it comes up,
Okay.
but I'm not going to have it. But let me, could I, John, because it is Arlington. Can I say one more
10 seconds, yeah.
All right. The question is not, I don't believe this dispute is if, the question is when. I believe we need to go through a real process to do it. I'm not willing to do it tomorrow. Although I have said clearly we're going to remove it. The question is how, and we've got even a process in place, and we're going to embark on that starting very soon.
Okay. I'm going to turn to Audrey with the same question about the logo.
I oppose the politics of symbolism, including name changes and statue removal, and I guess logo removal, as a ritualistic distraction from real racial justice issues, including the educational achievement gap, unequal employment opportunities, and lack of affordable housing in Arlington County. Instead, I recommend, instead of symbolic solutions to real problems, I recommend tackling those problems. For example, in just the time that we are now discussing whether or not to change a logo, we remain ignorant of the fact that since the name of Washington Lee High School was changed, the actual minority student achievement gap has increased, okay? And that over the past 5 years, the achievement gap of all students in Arlington County has gone down by 7 percentage points as reflected in its pass rate. And the Washington Lee Black student pass rate has declined by 11 percentage points over the past 5 years. These statistics are not addressed when we are diverting our conversation to symbolic issues. Now, as regards a vote on the logo, if I were elected to county board, I would abstain, and I would also issue a protest that this is not the proper use of Arlington's time, Arlington County board members' time and resources. Thank you.
I have so many thoughts, but I'm a moderator. So I'm going to go to the school board candidates. Same question, but yes or no. No explanation. I just want to know, yes or no, do you support removing the logo? Thank you.
I'll go first. Yes, I support removing the logo.
Okay. David and then Simone. So,
Yes.
Unequivocally, yes.
okay, there we go. All right, moving on to the next set of questions. I want to make sure we get into the housing issues with the county candidates. And I'm going to leave this fairly open-ended because I think we can figure out what your priorities are this way. What do you think is the number one housing issue in Arlington County, and how would you go about addressing it? I'm going to turn that to Audrey and then Libby.
Okay, so on the housing issue, I am basically concerned about a proposal to upzone the county as a supposed means of providing a more affordable housing to minority residents and people of color. The county acknowledges that its housing policy has gentrified thousands of low-income people out of the county, and now under the rubric of missing middle, it is promoting the myth that densifying Arlington's residential neighborhoods through upzoning will provide more affordable housing. The myth of missing middle was challenged by a July 2020 report by Wharton professor John Huntley, who demonstrated that Arlington property values are already so high that duplex ownership will remain beyond the reach even of those households earning 100% of area median income in most neighborhoods. Instead of missing middle densification, I propose to restore and promote the tax incentive for the renovation of privately owned apartment buildings that the county eliminated in this year's budget. Not only will this bring a lot of dilapidated buildings up to code, it will do so at a price that is affordable to both landlords and moderate income tenants. And again, I want to reiterate my concern about the framing of this issue. In other words, it's one thing to frame densification as a way to provide more housing for white people, but to frame it as a way to provide more housing for people of color is blatantly dishonest.
Okay. I'm going to turn to Libby.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, our situation with housing here in Arlington, I think, is a real clear example of systemic racism. That's much of the reason that we got to where we are now. Back in like the 30s, 40s, 50s, 75% of our land was zoned for single family houses. It was made really difficult for anybody to move in there who were not certain kinds of people. And that was the whole point of that zoning, which we now know, looking at things. The missing middle study that we have embarked on, and we've only done the preliminary study part. It's a 4-phase project. This is going to take a while, but one whole study, which I invite people to look at, goes over kind of how all of this zoning and was really part of systemic racism getting us to where we are today. And where we are today is the number one problem is the supply of housing for low and medium income residents is extremely limited. People just simply can't afford to live here. We have to figure out a way for more people to be able to afford to live here. One of the major issues, which we haven't talked about a lot, which is huge, I believe, is the issue of rent versus ownership. So one of the issues for Black Americans in our country is the history of being unable or being pushed out of their homes, not able to access the financing that white people could, not being able to build up equity in real estate, which so many people have been, people who are, the predominant, the majority group here have been able to. Actually, we're not a majority anymore. Excuse me. The folks that have been privileged have been able to do. So there is a tremendous problem here. Housing just shows it in so many different ways. So we need to, the missing middle study is one way to embark on doing a way to study it. I don't want to chop down all the trees and get rid of beautiful neighborhoods. I do want to give people flexibility. I'm trying to do it again, actually, even for myself. I'm working on with my daughter because I want to be able to, as I get older, live in the same home with her, but have my own separate area, except single family zoning has made that really difficult. We have made some changes, which actually makes it possible for me to come really close to what I want to do, as many people want to do. And that would not increase the footprint of the house, particularly change anything, but it would make it a multifamily dwelling or a multi-generational dwelling. We need a lot more flexibility. The missing middle study is working on that. We have a lot of inequities to address, and we need to be honest about what those inequities are as we begin to address them. And that's, again, part of the whole issue with systemic racism and the conversations we're having. Systemic racism is systemic because it is baked into the water we drink, the air we breathe, that people don't see it. People of color see it, but everybody else doesn't see it. We need to make it clear so we can fix it. And one of the ways we're trying to do that is with housing. I will finally finish that the issue of affordable housing in popular urban areas is global. And there's really nowhere much that has solved it. A city like Vienna, Austria, 85% of the housing there is basically owned by the city government. I don't know that we could get to that, but it is a tremendous problem that we've got to work through. Thanks for the question. I don't know there's a great answer, but I think the missing middle study will help us really study and understand what it is we're facing and what we need to do to fix it. And we do need to fix it if we want to keep Arlington the kind of community we all want it to be. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me ask the next question, and I'll direct this to everyone because they'll probably have a role both for the board and the school in this type of decision. The question is, do you support SROs being in Arlington Public Schools? So I'll turn to the school board candidates. Let's go to Simone, then Christina, and then David last.
I do not. The studies that are out there well, let me just start by saying the number one reason that most people support SROs in schools is for safety concerns, and people are concerned about an officer not being on site for a school shooting. If you study all the school shootings going back, the majority of them have been committed by either current or former students of the school who've had their mental health issues, problematic issues go unaddressed. And that boils up. I think a better use of our resources is to address the mental health crisis that we have. We just heard from the Arlington Youth Partners and Families presentation about the amount of stress and anxiety our students from elementary on through high school are feeling. And so I think that is a better use of our resources. The other point I'd like to make on that is the experiences differ. White students in Arlington, their experiences of their school resource officers differ dramatically from the experiences of the Black students and the Latino students. The data also bears that out with referrals to law enforcement and suspensions and arrests and detention of juveniles in Arlington is disproportionately higher amongst Black and Latino students. Our county has done, and our APS has done, a terrible job of data collection as far as what arrests were school related and what aren't. But I don't think there is value in having them on site. We're 26 square miles of a county, very small. We still have access to 911. Police can, for security reasons, they can patrol the perimeter.
Thank you. Christina.
I'm going to echo a lot of what Simone just said, actually. I do not support having SROs in schools. We've seen the data time and time again that SROs make students of color feel unsafe. They do not provide the mentorship opportunities that are sometimes cited as part of the promotional materials. And they result in significant disparities along in discipline along lines of difference, most noticeably ability and race and ethnicity. Instead, I am a huge supporter of directing those dollars towards a lot of the things that Simone mentioned: mental health, supporting our students, but also making sure that we're providing on-site school-based discipline options that are trained in restorative justice and all the things that we've talked about so far, making sure that we have the employees that are part of APS employees so they understand the mindset that we're trying to inculcate across all of our staff members. They understand what it is, how we're trying to treat all of our students. That does require, because of the current funding structure, because these are SROs are currently funded by the county, that does require a change, or it will require a change in how we fund them. But we do see that APS is beginning that conversation now. I'm following very closely and will continue to be pushing on that front, but I do not support SROs in schools.
David?
I echo the other two candidates' sentiments here. I don't support SROs in school. one of the things that we have to realize is that, going back from when I was in APS, that we've always had SROs in school. And, when the NAACP Education Committee researched it, they've been there since 1969. So over 50 years, the SROs have been in APS without question. And so finally they had an MOU in place a couple years ago, and then we redid it 2 years ago. And now it's time for, we're getting a working group together, like Christina said, to review the SRO practice and whether they are productive in schools. So as being somebody who is against having SROs in school, I will say that there is a fiscal component to it that we need to address. And that is that we get that money straight from the county. So what are we going to do when we have less money? So we need to partner with the county if we're going to get more mental health people to help out in schools. And we also need to determine what other roles do the SROs play that are not a police function in schools, and figure out what that's going to look like without them. And so there are a lot of layers to go through with this. And I will reiterate that if you're on this call and you're part of the NAACP, most of us that have been talking are against SROs. And I would encourage you to try and get on this working group that is, they're taking applications now. It's going to be formed in December, and then from January through June, there's going to be a lot of talk, and it's going to be a big community conversation about what is going to happen next. And if you want the SROs out of school, then we need as many people on that as possible to echo that idea and point out what's going on.
And then I'll turn to the county candidates. We can go Libby and then Audrey.
Yeah, thank you. So this is one of those issues that, the school system has embarked on their own study and their own work that's been discussed. And it's kind of not the place of a county board member to leap over it, say, school board, you're doing all of this study and all, but I know what's right, and you got to do X, Y, or Z. So I do want to let them have that play out. I think what is crucial is what is the role of SROs and how is it actually being implemented? And that's the case with probably, the roles have been, are very positive. There's not lots of good things. It's intended to be good. But then what I'm hearing from parents is that it's not playing out that way. So we really need to deal with that. And that gets to the issue of data. And we've talked a lot with the school system about getting good data, and on our side, we need it too, because I have heard in so many of these issues now, because we don't have good local data, we get national data, and national data certainly informs our decisions here, but we need to know, does that apply here in Arlington? Because we can't make decisions based on national data if our own data shows something very differently, but I'm not sure we have good data, so we don't know what it shows. So here, I am absolutely supportive of getting really good data on how it's working out, letting the school system work out what they want to do, and come to us with a recommendation for what they want to do. Again, I think David said it's the funding is where our role comes in with that. And obviously, if all of the data and the study shows that SROs are harmful to students, any student, if they're harmful to students, well then, as a county board member, I wouldn't want to approve that funding. But if it comes through all of this work that there's some way that can be helpful, or maybe there's a substitute, as David said, is that's a resource we take out. Is there something else that could be provided that would be helpful for students? And I certainly am willing to consider that.
Yeah.
So I hope that's a clear enough answer. It's hard for me to give you a yes or no right now, while I just don't feel it's right, proper, appropriate for me to do that as a county board member while the school board is trying to work this through.
You asked if that wasn't a good enough answer. I don't think it is. Just to go back, I've worked on this issue myself in Fairfax County and at the state level. We do have plenty of data in Fairfax County, and I know we have lots of data at the state level because I've worked with Delegate Kay Corey, for instance, on this issue of the SROs in schools and the impact it has right here in Virginia. Virginia is actually one of the worst states when we talk about the school to prison pipeline and criminalizing students. So I have to push back on you on what data are you looking for that would satisfy you to make a decision?
Thank you. It would be, it's somewhat local data, because I will argue Arlington County does not have a school to prison pipeline. I mean, there probably are some students. I mean, I've looked at the data. I don't think it shows that here, that we have a school to prison pipeline. So again, I'd need to be, again, as you stated earlier, Sean, Arlington and Fairfax are not the same. And again,
no, I know that. I guess my question is, what data are you looking for?
data here and the study that the school system is going to do. I don't want to leap ahead and assume that what we see in Virginia, what we see in Fairfax is what happens here, and that's the answer. And I'm sorry, I just feel it's inappropriate. When I was on the school board, I hated it when county board members would come in and try to tell me how to run the school system. The school system the APS has embarked on a study. I need to look at that when they come back, and they come back to us with a recommendation. So I'm sorry, if I see what you're seeing.
No, that was my question. That was my question. I just wanted to know what specific data. So you're looking for the APS study, and if that shows that, then you would be supportive of removing SROs.
Yes, I want them to finish it. If I see in Arlington what you see in Virginia and Fairfax, or even a part of that, then I absolutely would not want to have SROs, if that helps.
Okay.
I'm telling you how I would make my decision. Okay.
So yeah, and that's why I needed the clarity. Audrey, I'm going to ask you the same question. Thanks.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to object. I actually agree with Libby that questions directed at the school board candidates should not be directed at the county board candidates unless they are directly relevant to what the county board does. Now, that being said, no, I do not approve getting rid of SROs for the same reason that I do not approve defunding the police. We've already seen nationwide that even talk of defunding the police has led to a doubling of crime rates in most large cities. So there is a serious question. Although there are racial justice issues raised are totally legitimate, I oppose the agenda of Black Lives Matter in this and other areas. And with regards to SROs, my reasoning is this. If the restorative justice programs that all the candidates and presumably the NAACP supports are effective, then the students who would otherwise be candidates for disciplinary action by an SRO will not present. Their problems will have already been dealt with. They will already have found themselves back with the mainstream and the student body. Now, why therefore, if we don't have disciplinary problems in school, why would we therefore want to retain our SROs? Because people from outside the school can threaten the children who both children with disciplinary problems and those who do not have those problems can be victimized by people, random shooters coming from outside the school. That's what we're concerned about. We are concerned about the safety of everybody on our public property, not just the few disciplinary problems. So if we cater to students, if we cater to the students who are disciplinary problems to the extent that we get rid of our SROs, we are putting the mainstream of our student body at risk. And again, I want to emphasize, okay, we're all for restorative justice. If restorative justice does what it's supposed to do, we're not going to have disciplinary problems. Kids are not going to be confronted by an SRO because there won't be any truancy issues to confront.
Audrey, you're running short on time, but let me ask you two follow-ups. You mentioned something, and I want to make sure we get to this before we go forward with moderating. You don't want questions that go to the school board. Did you feel that this doesn't relate to the board job, the county board?
Only tangentially. As Libby said, if it becomes a funding issue, the county will have to make sure that these positions are defunded. As I understand it, the county currently funds our SROs, so the county will have to make a defunding issue. So yes, indirectly the county is involved, but the question of school resource officers pertains to school board candidates primarily.
Mm-hmm. Well, so as someone who's worked on these issues, the memorandum of understanding between the school system and the police officers is a county budget issue automatically when you have an understanding of agreement of how the police officers operate in the schools. So as a county board member, you will be a part of this discussion. So that's why we asked you that question. As to your sources, do you have any data that shows that SROs prevent school shootings?
Well, I don't have the data because I have not researched the question. I have not researched the question because I do not believe that it applies primarily to county board candidates.
Understood. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next question. This is just for the school board candidates, so Audrey will not have to answer. What is your plan to leverage the new Virginia Tech campus that will be at the Potomac Yards? That was a question that was submitted by the audience. So I'm going to turn that to, I think Christina went last time, so I'll do Christina, then David, and then Simone. Sorry about that.
Great question. I'm actually a resident of Crystal City. So this new campus is going to be about a mile south from me, and I take walks with my dog down that way all the time. So really excited that this incredible resource is going to be so close to Arlington. I think this is a great opportunity to talk about how we can engage in some amazing enrichment opportunities for our students, expand our dual enrollment options, figure out where students might be able to take courses, whether they're virtually with on the campus or with campus instructors, or if they're actually going to the campus to take those courses. I think this is a really wonderful opportunity, and it's been a great community benefit that's come as a result of Amazon coming into the area. And so really excited to be able to leverage that opportunity to find some additional instructional options for our kids.
And next, I forgot the order.
You could go, Simone. That's fine.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I think we could leverage grad students for tutoring, for experience for them. We could leverage them for tutoring our students. The NAACP in Arlington is currently working out on an initiative to provide reading, tutoring, and STEM for underserved students in Title I schools. And so we will need personnel, and I think that will be a great partnership to have those students tutoring and also mentoring our students in APS.
So if we're going to have the tech center, on the tech campus, then we're going to have to go through our IPP process, which is our instructional pathways, and make sure that leads us down that path of what that education instruction looks like at the tech campus. Is it going to be a subset of Arlington Tech? Are we going to have a dual classes with that and that Arlington Tech program that we have been trying to build for the past couple of years? This is what we need to decide, and that's going to go through that IPP process. So we should be looking for that shortly. I believe it's going to come together in the next year.
And I understand that Libby wants to answer this question as well. We're running close to our time, so if you have questions in the audience that you want to drop in the chat, I will try to take one or two from those to the candidates. But Libby, I'll give you an opportunity to answer this question if you'd like to as well, and then the same for Audrey, obviously, if she'd also like to weigh in here.
Thank you. I will a little bit. And you're being a great host, by the way. I'm really impressed, John. Thank you. Really quickly, the whole point of connecting our students to higher education of some form has been a huge issue. I mean, we talk a lot about the school to prison pipeline, but we have not done a great job on the school to work to life pipeline. And Virginia Tech, I think, provides that campus there with, I think, more and more sort of, reality-based learning where they're actually working on real projects in real life. And that appeals to a lot more students and is a lot more relevant to today. I think can be a huge addition for our students here. And I have been talking with, I'll just say in my role as county board chair, because I get that opens some doors for me. I've met with the president of Virginia Tech. I have met with the president of George Mason University. I have talked to Amazon folks. I have talked to JBG. I've talked to a lot of people who are, fairly influential and fairly influential here on kind of connecting how we connect our schools to work. And I think this presents us with a tremendous opportunity to do things differently. Finally, I will say, people would talked about when Amazon came to Arlington, that's going to change Arlington and change us forever. Yes, it's going to change us quite a bit. But I think the bigger change for Arlington and the region is the presence of Virginia Tech. And hopefully that will, start to really take off, and it will not be the education of the 19th century. Some of the models for higher education go back to the Middle Ages, for heaven's sakes, but they will be much more forward looking and help our students become involved in higher education and in the work world, and really change how we move children into life with better skills and abilities, and that will help everybody. Thanks for giving me the chance. Thank you.
Yes. And Audrey, it's up to you if you want to also weigh in here. Libby asked to answer.
Could you restate the question?
Oh, sure. The question was about, hold on here. I just want to get it exactly right. It was about the Virginia Tech. Hold on. I think I deleted my question because I was trying to. Oh, here we go. What is your plan to leverage the new Virginia Tech campus that will be at Potomac Yards?
Well, I certainly support the new Virginia Tech campus. I think its location at Potomac Yards is an excellent decision because the area itself is not totally congested, but it is still very convenient to public transportation. So I endorse that initiative. Also, I myself am a graduate of a technical school. When I was out of college many years ago, I couldn't find work. I enrolled in a computer training program, certainly not on the scale of Virginia Tech, but it enabled me to find employment, and I've been employed as a programmer ever since. And so I would say yes to technical education for kids who don't have a clear career path outlined for them, either through their own choice or that of their parents, kids who are disadvantaged in various ways, kids who are gifted in technical skills need to have a way to advance. And yes, I do support that effort. I think it is one of the programs that in Northern Virginia that I fully endorse.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask this question to the county board candidates, but again, for the audience at 2:15, we're going to start the closing statements. So if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. So I have a couple questions here related to housing. How do the county board candidates plan to promote low and mixed income and immigrant housing in Arlington and their vision for the future of Columbia Pike? Sorry, I'll start with Audrey, you finished off last time. I'll let you start this time, and then we'll go to Libby.
Okay, well, this is a very difficult question because before we can make any serious advances in providing affordable housing in the county, we need to dismiss the myth of missing middle housing. Densification is not going to do it. Now, in past years, I have advocated on behalf of a housing authority for the county that would assemble lots and construct buildings for low and moderate income people at an affordable price. Every single referendum along those lines, and there have been 3 of them over the past 30 years, have been rejected resoundingly by the county residents under the leadership of county board, which has vehemently opposed these initiatives down through the years. So in acceptance of the fact that a housing authority is not going to provide the affordable housing that we need, one of the things that I would do is I would, as I mentioned earlier, advocate restoration of the tax incentive to private developers to renovate their properties. This was removed from the county budget this year, or as part of the county budget, this tax incentive was removed from our local ordinances. Now, with regards to Columbia Pike, there is an initiative to change the form-based code to allow developers to construct condos and townhouses for people earning up to 80% of area median income. Right now, the form-based code is set at 60% of area median income, and developers have found that they cannot construct properties that people at that income level can afford. This issue has been dealt with by a columnist named Jane Green in RL Now, and she argues that the county is basically sitting on a choice, and that is either you're going to make home ownership available to people along Columbia Pike, or you're going to make more rental properties available to people at even lower income levels. And she favors the latter over the former. She says because the county does not have unlimited resources.
Sorry, you're running short on time. Okay, thank you. Sorry to cut you off. It's just the time. Libby?
Yeah, you got to cut us off sometimes, Sean. It's all right. Yeah, I think what are we doing about, I keep forgetting the question by the time we get to this point. It's what are we doing about housing, right? To provide more?
No, it was how do county board candidates plan to promote low and mixed income and immigrant housing in Arlington and their vision for the future of Columbia Pike?
Right. So the vision, my vision for Columbia Pike, which is my neighborhood, actually is a really good transportation network, which we're finally getting in with, I think, some good bus transportation, which I think will be much better, and a road that works well, but we want to keep the neighborhoods there. I want to try to preserve the affordable housing that exists, and that is very tricky. And we've got to find sometimes some other economic incentives to do that. One of my big concerns is Barcroft Apartments and the apartments also along George Mason. So we need to try to preserve the few large affordable housing providers that we have right now. I think the bottom line is that we've got to be looking at things differently, right? If you want a different result, you've got to do things differently. That's part of the reason we're doing the missing middle study. And that's part of the reason it's taking as long as it is, because it really is a study and we're really looking at everything we can see, not just, in our area or the country, but around the globe. We are looking now to go out a little bit on some proposals and going much farther afield than the usual providers here to on some of our sites that we're looking at that maybe will convert office buildings to housing and seeing if we can come up with some different proposals. I believe we have got to get the business community, the large folks like Nestle, Amazon, JBG, the large folks here have got to play a role too, because what we have been doing is providing a good work. We're providing the employment for them. They've got to help us provide the housing if they want to keep this community working, and they need to step up and come to the table. We need to do things differently is the bottom line. Sorry to go on so long.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so this is going to be the last question. What we're going to try to do really quickly, because we're running short on time. Oop, AirPod fell out. It happens. What we're going to do is I want you to state 2 to 3 of your top priorities if you were to take office. Obviously, we have an incumbent on the line, but if you were to retake your position, what are your priorities going into your term? 2 to 3 priorities, and you have to stay at a minute because we are running short on time.
You got to say who should start.
Oh, sorry. Let's go with David, and then we're going to go completely out of order here. We're going to go David, and then we'll go Simone, and then Audrey, and then Christina, and then Libby. And that's it.
All right. Well, thanks. This is one so your campaign pillar platforms. I believe in equity. I have a 4-step plan for equity that's on my website. For the sake of time, if you just want to go to prettyforschoolboard.com, it outlines the 4 steps we need to take in order to start equity within APS. Number 2, it's proper planning and correct planning with a combination of using the JFAC and actually planning for correctly for future growth and planning correctly with the correct facilities. And then the third part is just transparency to make sure that reinstill the faith in the parents into the school board.
That was quick. I like it. Let's go to Simone.
Priority number 1, administer a rapid automatized naming screener to every single kindergartner to detect reading disabilities. Priority number 2, align our entire reading curriculum to the science of reading standards at every single school, so that every student is getting the same core high quality curriculum. Number 3, overhaul our special education program, which is broken beyond repair and is really weighing down on our budget. And so we need to overhaul how we're delivering special education.
Okay. I'm going to go to Audrey next, just because you're on my screen next, and then we'll go to Christina and then Libby.
Okay, here are my priorities. Save affordable housing, say no to upzoning, use bond money for needed facilities, not boondoggles, save our parks, streams, and tree canopy, stop clear cutting wooded areas, say no to backroom deals and yes to the Arlington Way, say yes to a tax rollback and no to a county board pay grab, make developers pay their fair share for essential county services, develop a flood prevention and mitigation program, install renewable energy on county-owned buildings, promote real democracy, end one-party rule in Arlington County.
Okay.
Great, I'm up next. So the priorities that I'm going to give you are framed in the current moment that we're in. If we didn't have a pandemic, these priorities would be slightly different. So I just want to acknowledge that. First priority is making sure that we're checking in with our students' mental health, their social emotional learning, and their well-being overall, making sure that they are ready to learn. They're not going to be ready to learn if they're dealing with hunger, if they're dealing with homelessness, they're dealing with poor Wi-Fi, they're dealing with the basics. And so we need to make sure that we get the basics right, starting first and foremost with their mental health and their well-being. Number 2, making sure that our instruction is top-notch. If we want to say that we are the best district in the Commonwealth, we need to be the best district in the Commonwealth for every single student. And if we're going to be in a virtual learning environment for the foreseeable future, we need to make sure that that's excellent for every single kid. And so working really, really diligently with our teachers and our Department of Teaching and Learning to make sure that that happens. And then finally, communication. As we've seen over the past couple of months, communications coming out of APS have improved, but we can always make sure that we're engaging with our community, using a collaborative framework for governance, making sure that we're engaging with everybody, making sure that everyone understands, even if you don't agree with the decision, you understand why the decision was made and what were the factors that were included, so that we can all be on the same page going forward. So given the moment that we're in, those are the priorities that I will be bringing to the board if elected.
Okay, and then we'll go to Libby, and then candidates will have 2-minute closing.
All right. Thank you very much, Sean. So, boy, real quickly, I big overall, affordable living. So under that is affordable housing, good childcare, good transportation, good internet that everybody can afford. Number 2 is equity, because this government, we've got to work for everybody. Diversity is our strength. If we do not stay diverse and have everybody able to live and thrive here, we will not do well for anyone. Third one is the environment. So that's like the stormwater that's cutting down on our carbon footprint, because that is coming into play more and more as we see these large storms and our environment falling around really about our ears on the globe, and including some urban agriculture things, some ways to help people grow their own food here. So affordability, affordable living for everybody, equity, because that's the only reason that's the only way you're gonna make it work for everyone. That's what government should be about, the environment. And that will take innovation, because there are so many things we need to be doing differently. This pandemic is really an opportunity to do things differently because we have to, and we do all that, we will be resilient and healthy. That's it.
Thank you. Really quickly before we go to closing, I see there is someone here as a visitor writing things. Just remarking that if you are too cowardly to put your name to something, then you probably shouldn't have the opinion. And I just wanted to say that before I removed you from the chat. So they have been kicked out. We're going to go to our closing, and then I'll reply with some closing remarks of my own. Thank you all for all these candidates for participating in this. It's hugely important. And I will go in reverse order for the closings. So Libby, you get to go first. Just a 2-minute closing, please. Please stay within the time limits. Thank you.
I'm going to try and kind of make this part up because they'd originally said 1 minute. So, I'll just say public service has been my life. and it has been mostly to Arlington. I really believe that I've got what we need right now, with the experience, the background, the knowledge of the community, and know how to work the various networks on a regional, particularly on a regional and local level, to make the kind of changes we need to make. I would hope to have another 4 years to help guide us through this pandemic. These are really difficult times, through the pandemic and out the other side to a much more equitable and healthy community. The pandemic has been revealing so many problems in our society, including all of the equity ones. These are challenging times, but they are exciting opportunities for our future. And again, I really would like to be able to continue to help guide and lead the community through here. I look forward to learning more from you and from everybody as we do it. Again, I love learning on this job. It's fantastic. And I think I would think I will stop there. I mean, we're going to have to make some real
Appreciate it.
changes. It's going to be not easy to do. Thank you.
Awesome. So we're going in reverse order. I think before her was Christina and then Audrey.
Great, mixing it up. I like it. Let me just pull up my remarks. I have too many Google Docs open right now. Well, thank you all for the great questions and for being here and for engaging in a really robust conversation, including the conversation that's happening on chat and on Facebook. And a lot of the questions that are being raised and a lot of the conversations that's happened so far today are really important and critical issues for all Arlingtonians. And so it's really exciting to see that conversation happening live and in color. When I decided to run for this office, I built my platform on 3 pillars: equity, educators, and data. And all 3 of them are essential if we're going to change outcomes for students on the margins. Without an uncompromising equity lens for decision making, we're going to continue to design systems that perpetuate oppression for our students. Without well-trained, culturally competent educators, we cannot adequately address student needs. And without transparent, accurate, and disaggregated data about student achievement, we cannot have an honest conversation about the inequities that are currently existing in APS. So these are the pillars that guide my professional work. Every day I help school education organizations design systems that are equitable from the very beginning. And I'm running for school board to bring that expertise and that perspective to my community. Ultimately, a decision about who you're going to vote for is deeply personal. So if you have more questions or just want to discuss the issues, feel free to send me an email at Christina@ChristinaForArlington.com to set up a time for chat. I will put that in the chat as well for those of you who might need it and who are on the Zoom. Otherwise, please check out my website. It's ChristinaForArlington.com to learn more about me, about my platform, sign up for email updates. And don't forget to vote now. Between now and November 3rd, early voting is happening at 2200 Clarendon Boulevard. And I encourage you to vote for me, Cristina Diaz-Torres, and my fellow democratically endorsed colleague, David Priddy. Thank you so much for listening and have a great afternoon.
I believe Audrey was next.
Yes, first I want to thank the NAACP for sponsoring this event. It is one of the few forums that is available to the candidates, the local candidates in Arlington this year, and I am grateful, as I know the other candidates are also, for this forum. Now, the choice in this year's county board race is clear. Do you want an engaged community leader or a rubber stamp? I am the former and my opponent is the latter. Libby Garvey may have opposed the Pike Trolley, but she has enthusiastically approved every gold-plated boondoggle considered by the board ever since, including the copper-clad Lubber Run Community Center and Longbridge Park Aquatic Center. These white elephants are so overbuilt, they are already too expensive to operate. Libby has also rubber stamped every major site plan development project to come down the proverbial pike, without regard to their impacts on traffic, schools, parks, public safety, runoff, or pollution. Now she is pushing missing middle upzoning, which will displace existing homeowners but produce no affordable housing. Further, she says County Board Member Takis Karantonis has no conflict of interest, serving as vice chair of the Alliance for Housing Solutions, the principal advocate for missing middle upzoning in Arlington. I disagree. As an independent on county board, I won't claim credit for rubber stamping done deals. I won't ignore fellow board members' conflicts of interest. Here's how you can help me restore confidence in county government. Visit my website at audreyclement.com, support my candidacy, volunteer or donate to my campaign, and vote for me on November the 3rd. Let's join together to make Arlington an exceptional place to live and work. And thanks again to the NAACP.
believe Simone's next, and then David after that. Is that right? Simone?
When I began my campaign in January of this year, my platform had many themes, equity as the overarching focus of APS, but also a trauma-informed, a race-conscious, depressurized, inclusive, teacher-diverse, and fiscally responsible APS. None of this has changed for what I envision APS to be. However, I've had to quickly pivot my platform to begin addressing the impacts of COVID-19 on our students' education. I have been steadily engaging with the community on these issues and all the complexities involved. I'm the only candidate who has put out a formal statement on childcare for virtual learning and a statement on the reopening of schools. Listen, I can relate to all the anxieties, the angst, the frustrations of our school community that we're experiencing because I'm experiencing it too. By way of experience and qualifications, my 20 years as a federal government attorney has prepared me to adeptly handle curveballs and navigate unpredictability and uncertainty. As an immigrant from Jamaica, arriving in the US at 16, I had to quickly figure out on my own how to navigate college without any guidance. I'm familiar with navigating the unfamiliar. I'm steady and adaptable in times of turmoil. With a Master of Laws in conflict resolution and 15 years as a mediator, I'm comfortable with the uncomfortable. I don't shy away from conflict. I will ask the hard questions. I know how to work effectively with people with whom I disagree and who disagrees with me. That's what I do every day as a litigator. Having worked much of my legal career in the counterintelligence world, I'm adept at identifying risk and taking mitigating steps to avoid catastrophe. These are the leadership skills that are desperately needed on our school board, and that is what I will bring to the table. I'm a lifelong Democrat with progressive democratic values, running outside of ACDC because of the Hatch Act. I'm one of 37,000 federal employees in Arlington. I'm asking for your vote on or before November the 3rd. Go to SimoneForStudents.com. Thank you.
You're going to close us out, David.
All right. Well, thank you for your time this afternoon. And thank you again to Sean for moderating. You have made this fun. And Cassie for organizing. Thank you to the viewers for tuning in. I have a vision to achieve equity in APS and a plan to go along with it. I have a vision for dealing with the planning and capacity issues and how I will collaborate to help bring the school board forward to take APS in the future. Having the boots on the ground involvement in everyday APS affords me the perspective of understanding how to take us through COVID-19 as a community and with the business background to make fiscally responsible decisions. I will reiterate, I'm asking for your vote because I'm the right person who has a history of APS growing up in Arlington. With kids in middle school and elementary school, I have a perspective that no one else brings to the table. And I have the business acumen, which is a much needed presence when dealing with $700 million budgets. Please visit my website, prettyforschoolboard.com, and send me a note if you have any questions or if you want to volunteer for the campaign or if you simply just want to say hello. As one of the democratically endorsed candidates for school board, along with Christina, I ask for your vote. I'm at 2200 Clarendon every day for early voting. I hope to see you there. I am David Priddy.
Thank you, David, and thank you to every single candidate here. We really appreciate you and entering into the race and the public sphere to give us your comments today and to your ideas and vision for Arlington County. Even if, well, there goes my AirPod again. Oh, well, I'm just gonna take it out. Boom. So even if we don't agree with you, it is so important that you share these thoughts with us and you do it honestly. It's easy for people to tell different audiences what they want to hear. It is much harder to honestly give your perspective. So we really appreciate that. To the audience, thank you for joining us. At the local level, this will have the most impact on your life. And so it is important that we engage and that we know what the candidates are thinking and that they are looking out for you and your interest. And so this is one of the most important things you could do. I think of the parting words of John Lewis on his deathbed, that democracy is not a state, democracy is an act. And you all are engaging in that act by being here today and by running for offices and doing everything that you're doing. So thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you to the Arlington NAACP for allowing me to moderate. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for co-sponsoring this event. I appreciate you all, and I hope you have a good afternoon and a good weekend. Thanks.